It was a Tuesday when Darren moved into apartment 3B. There was nothing particularly special about the building itself. A three-story stucco complex on a slightly slanted street in East Hollywood, with parking that doubled as a pothole museum and neighbors who all wore headphones but never seemed to listen to music. The listing had felt too easy. Spacious one-bedroom, rent under market, utilities included. The landlord didn't ask for proof of employment or even identification. He just handed Darren the keys, said, "No pets, no parties, and don't piss off the other tenant," then got into a dented Camry and drove off without saying goodbye. Darren had brushed it off. LA was weird. Rent was weirder. He figured it was one of those lucky breaks people talked about in podcasts before launching a skincare brand. The apartment itself was clean, mostly. Beige carpet, peeling laminate in the kitchen, and a smell like someone had tried to cover up mildew with lemon-scented despair. But it had a window, and Darren had lived in worse places. The upstairs unit creaked occasionally. Pipes moaned in the walls like they'd seen things, but nothing unmanageable. He unpacked slowly. First his desk, then his laptop, then the same 3 mugs he'd been washing in a loop since college. He didn't bother decorating. He figured he'd be out in 6 months, either from success or eviction. That was how things went for freelancers. The first night was uneventful, mostly. A few floorboards squeaked when he walked to the kitchen. The fridge hummed like it was thinking too hard. Around 2 a.m., he heard a soft knock. Not at the door, but from somewhere inside the wall. He paused, listened. Nothing. Maybe the building settling, he thought. Maybe raccoons. In the morning, he found the spice rack rearranged. He hadn't remembered unpacking it fully, but there it was. Paprika next to parsley. Oregano with the other O's. All perfectly alphabetized. He blinked at it, then laughed. "Okay," he muttered. "That's cute." He assumed it had been him. A tired brain. Maybe he'd been more organized than he thought. But when he opened the fridge, there was a note taped to the orange juice. "Your leftovers are starting to smell. Please consider finishing them or labeling with dates. Management." Darren stared at it. The handwriting was neat, slanted, almost elegant. He lived alone. He checked the locks, the windows. The door was still bolted from the inside. Nothing was broken. He even checked his phone for a delivery notification, just in case this was some niche, personalized prank app. Nothing. He tore the note down, tossed it in the trash, and told himself he was just tired. That night, the thermostat adjusted itself. It had been set to 72. He liked it cool at night. It helped him sleep. But sometime after midnight, he woke up sweating. The air felt thick, still, unmoving. The thermostat read 67.5. He turned it back, watched it hold, went back to bed. In the morning, it read 67.5 again. The note was back on the fridge, rewritten, same message, same script, this time with a smiley face at the end, and the spice rack reorganized again. A slight shift. Basil and bay leaves had switched places, still alphabetical, but passive-aggressively so. Darren didn't believe in ghosts, but he did believe in very bored landlords with keys and nothing better to do. So he called the number on the lease. No answer. He called again and again until the voicemail cut in with the same flat tone. "This number is no longer in service." When he looked up the management company online, he found only one search result, an archived forum post from 2013 with the subject line, "Anyone else live at 1124 Belrose? What's up with 3B? There were no replies. That evening, he set up a camera in the kitchen, not for evidence, just for curiosity. He angled it toward the fridge and went to bed. At 2:41 a.m., the footage caught the fridge door opening and closing, slowly, as if pulled by someone trying not to wake anyone. The camera didn't catch a figure, just the fridge, opening, closing. And when Darren woke up, there was another note. This one didn't comment on the leftovers. It simply said, "You snore." He stood in the kitchen, blinking at the paper, unsure whether to laugh, scream, or write back. In the end, he brewed coffee instead. And when he poured it into a mug, he found the mug had been washed, spotless, bone dry, and placed upside down on a paper towel with another note beneath it. "You're welcome." The next few days passed in a strange domestic standoff. Darren avoided mentioning the notes out loud, as if speaking about them might encourage something. He stopped leaving dirty dishes in the sink, mostly out of guilt, though he pretended it was efficiency. He began labeling his leftovers. He folded his laundry immediately after drying it. It wasn't fear, he told himself. It was mutual respect. By the end of the week, he had stopped looking for explanations. Instead, he started adjusting, like someone learning to live with an older sibling or a strangely sentient Roomba that occasionally judged his lifestyle choices. One night, after a long client call and 3 too many glasses of boxed wine, Darren muttered, "Thanks," while tossing out a moldy slice of lasagna he'd meant to eat 4 days ago. The fridge didn't respond, but the freezer door opened slightly, then closed again, like a gentle nod. The next morning, Darren found a post-it on the microwave. "You're welcome. Also, the wine is terrible." He began sleeping with the lights on, not because he was afraid of the dark, but because it was easier to spot notes that way. Sometimes they were stuck to the cabinets, sometimes the bathroom mirror, once even on his laptop keyboard. A message that simply read, "Your password is dumb." It was. He changed it. Still, the most disturbing part wasn't the notes, or the fridge, or the passive critique of his wardrobe. "You wore that shirt 3 days in a row. Please, Darren." It was the smell. Every night around midnight, a faint, oily scent filled the apartment. Not decay, not rot. Something warmer, greasier, microwaved fish. Every single night at exactly 12:17 a.m., the scent wafted through the vents, not just for a moment, but for 10-15 minutes straight, as if someone were slowly, methodically reheating the saddest salmon imaginable. Darren set his alarm one night. He stood in the kitchen with a flashlight and waited. 12:16. The apartment was silent. 12:17. The microwave beeped. Darren turned slowly. The display on the microwave had lit up. 0030 flashed on the screen. It started ticking down, but the microwave was empty. He stepped closer. The rotating plate inside was spinning, but there was nothing on it. No container, no smell. Then, halfway through the countdown, the smell hit him, like steamed tuna in a Tupperware left in a hot car. It was pungent, deeply personal. Someone's forgotten lunch reheated in the afterlife. He opened the microwave door. It stopped. The light inside flickered and went out. The smell remained. He left the kitchen, went to bed. And in the morning, there was a fish stick in the fridge. Just one, sitting on a paper towel. The note beside it said, "For next time." He tossed it in the trash. That afternoon, his trash can was empty, but the fish stick was back in the fridge, wrapped in cling film, labeled "Darren's, do not touch." That night, Darren went to a friend's place, not for any reason, just to not be home. When he came back around midnight, the apartment was colder than usual, quiet. The thermostat read 67.5. There was no new note, only the fish stick, still waiting, still labeled. He ate it. It was dry, slightly rubbery, definitely microwaved, but somehow comforting. When he returned the empty paper towel to the counter, he found a new note underneath it. "Proud of you." He sat down on the couch, the air around him heavy with something like citrus and smugness. Darren had lived with worse roommates. He just didn't know how to explain this one to his therapist. He didn't even know if he should try. By the third week, Darren had stopped thinking in terms of haunted or not haunted. It was more like occupied. The apartment wasn't malevolent. Not exactly. There were no screams in the walls, no bleeding faucets, no heads spinning in the mirror. But the space had moods, habits, preferences, and most disturbingly, opinions. The notes became more frequent, no longer confined to the fridge or microwave. They started appearing in his day-to-day life. On his laptop, Chrome has 27 tabs open. Why? On the bathroom mirror, you missed a spot under the chin. In his laundry basket, your socks don't match. They're judging each other. He tried ignoring them, but then the notes got personal. He'd returned from a Zoom meeting to find that fake laugh you did at 12:12 p.m. Never again. Or after a phone call. You could have ended the conversation 2 minutes earlier. No one needed the weather update. The worst part? It was always right. He started second-guessing everything. His emails became shorter, his replies more carefully timed. He paused before pouring cereal, asking himself, would this make a sticky note appear? One night, feeling defiant, he made a grilled cheese and left the pan in the sink. No note appeared. He slept smugly, dreaming of greasy rebellion. In the morning, the pan was gone. Not cleaned, not moved, gone. He searched the cabinets, under the sink, even the freezer. Nothing. Then he opened the oven. There it was, immaculately scrubbed, polished and placed dead center, like a display in a cursed showroom. Inside the pan sat a single grilled cheese, cut diagonally, crusts removed, a note tucked beneath the plate. This is how you do it. He ate it. Of course he ate it. It was perfect. The bread golden, crisp but not dry, cheese molten without being messy. It was the kind of sandwich people claimed their grandmother made when she loved them most. After that, he stopped fighting it. He still wrote back occasionally, small replies on torn scraps or sticky notes of his own. Not confrontational, just conversational. Okay, but I like my socks this way. I was nervous. That's why I said the weather thing. Seriously, though, how are you folding shirts like that? And slowly, the tone shifted. The notes became friendly. Still judgmental, sure. But now with a kind of tired warmth, like a disappointed older cousin who had stopped trying to change him and started accepting his flaws with reluctant affection. One day, after a particularly rough client call, Darren closed his laptop and sighed out loud. I think I bombed it. There was silence. Then, from the hallway, a small rustling. He turned. A sticky note had slid halfway out from under the door. He walked over and read it. You did, but you'll do better next time. He sat down, not afraid, not confused, just deeply existentially annoyed. The apartment wasn't haunted. It had simply decided it was cohabiting. And Darren was no longer living alone. He was living with someone who died, remained opinionated, and had chosen him as a long-term personal development project. Later that week, he found a note on his nightstand. It said, "Try not to dream about spiders tonight. They don't like when you notice them." He didn't sleep well. Darren started keeping the lights on in every room. Not because he was afraid, that's what he told himself, but because it felt polite, like leaving a porch light on for a roommate who might be invisible, dead, or operating on a metaphysical work-from-home schedule. The notes had started arriving in his handwriting. That was new. At first, he thought it was a mistake. Maybe he'd scribbled something during sleep. A to-do list, a thought. But it was unmistakable. His loops, his slant, The tiny tail he added to the letter R when he was thinking too fast. One note read, "Don't forget to hydrate today." Another, "Your left eye twitches when you lie. Stop doing that." He stared at them longer than he should have, holding them under different lights, comparing them to things he'd written before. There was no forgery. It was his handwriting, but he hadn't written them. He checked his hands, started filming himself at night. Nothing. The camera, if anything, refused to record after midnight. Every night at 12:01 a.m., the footage cut out for exactly 6 minutes and 17 seconds. No glitches, no static, just a void. And when the video resumed, the camera was in the same spot, same frame, untouched. But the sticky notes would be there. In one video, the camera lens fogged slightly during that blackout window, just a faint cloud like someone breathing too close, then slowly pulling away. Then came the whisper. Not in his head, not in a dream, in the vents. A sound that wasn't quite a voice, more like someone humming under their breath while pretending not to be there. Like a person who thought they were invisible and enjoyed being rude about it. It was tuneless, off rhythm, like jazz, if jazz hated you. He stood under the vent with a broom and poked gently. The humming stopped. From the kitchen came the soft beep of the microwave. It was set for 0013. Inside was a bowl of uncooked rice. A note taped to the microwave door read, "Nice try." The rice was warm. That night he opened his closet and found all of his shirts turned inside out. Each one meticulously pressed, hung backwards, and sorted by how often he lied while wearing them. He could tell by the labels. He found a hoodie he hadn't worn in years at the front of the closet, taped to it. "You were funnier when you wore this. Bring him back." Darren didn't remember being funny. Not particularly, but the hoodie was soft. He wore it. At exactly 2:12 a.m., the doorbell rang. He froze. The doorbell never rang. He stepped slowly to the peephole, looked out. Nothing. No one. Just the hallway, empty, lights humming softly. But when he turned back, the couch cushions had been rearranged, a blanket draped over one corner, a cup of tea, actual tea, steeping gently on the coffee table. The tea tag read, "Chamomile. You need it." He sipped it. It was warm, not poisoned, not glowing, but he felt watched, not by something malevolent. Worse, by something interested, by something that had been watching long enough to learn how he liked his tea, how he folded his socks, when he faked his laugh, what hoodie he felt safe in. He sat down on the couch, sipped again, and whispered into the room, "Okay, what do you want?" No reply, just the tea, steaming gently. But on the TV screen, still turned off, something appeared for half a second. A flicker, a shape, a reflection of someone sitting beside him, just for a moment. Then gone, and next to the tea, a new note had appeared. It said, "Getting there." Darren started waking up at 3:03 a.m. every night. Not from nightmares, not from noises, just waking, wide-eyed, alert, as if something had called him by name just loud enough for the subconscious to hear. He'd sit up, check the hallway. Nothing. But each night, something small had moved. One night, all the chairs were stacked on the kitchen table, perfectly balanced, not a single scrape mark on the floor. Another night, every book in his apartment was open to the exact middle page, as if the ghost had gotten bored and decided to speed read its way through his collection of true crime and half-read productivity guides. Once, he found every pen in the house uncapped and arranged in a spiral on the bathroom floor. That one felt personal. He started whispering to the walls when he got home. Just little things. "Hi, I'm back." Or, "Please don't touch the laundry this time." Or, "I actually like the hoodie. You were right." No one replied, But the microwave did leave a post-it that said, "Welcome back, champ." One afternoon, Darren came home to find a grocery bag waiting by the door. Inside, fresh bread, a stick of butter, apples, and a bottle of honey with a ribbon tied around it. The tag read, "You've been low lately." He stood in his kitchen holding the honey bottle like it was a love letter from someone he didn't want to admit he missed. By the end of the week, Darren had developed a routine. He'd leave a note before bed, sometimes asking a question, sometimes just venting. In the morning, a reply would be waiting. Always neat, always in his handwriting, always right. One night, after too many emails and one particularly awkward video meeting, he wrote, "Am I getting worse at this? Life?" In the morning, the reply was taped to his coffee mug. Not worse, just more aware. That's different. He took that mug to work. At first, it seemed comforting, helpful, like having a roommate who was dead but emotionally intelligent. But then things started getting predictive. He'd get a text from a coworker just as he was thinking about them, only to find a note waiting at home that read, "Kara will cancel. Don't take it personally." She had. Or, "Take the blue folder, not the red." He did. And when the office printer jammed, it was the red folder full of duplicates that saved him from a long explanation. He didn't even question it anymore. Not until the Wednesday the notes stopped. No greeting on the fridge, no suggestion near the sink, no gentle bullying over his sock choices, just silence. He waited all day, left extra lights on, cleaned obsessively, burned toast on purpose. Nothing. That night, he sat on the couch with his tea and whispered, "Where'd you go?" Silence. He tried going to bed, but the quiet pressed against him like a thick blanket. Not peaceful. Empty. At 3:03 a.m., he woke up. Not from sound, but from absence. The hallway was darker than usual. The fridge light didn't come on when he opened it. Even the microwave clock had gone black. He walked room to room. No notes, no signs, just stillness. And then, in the living room, he found a single sticky note on the floor. Crisp, untouched. Ink a little different this time. Sharper, harsher. It read, "Would you still listen if I wasn't polite?" He didn't sleep that night. The power came back in the morning, but his phone wallpaper had changed. It was a photo of his own living room, taken from the couch at 3:03 a.m. Darren stopped telling people about the notes, not because he was scared, not exactly, but because they didn't believe him. Worse, they nodded too quickly, said things like, "Wow, that's wild," or "Maybe you're just sleep writing," with the same tone people used when someone talked too long about their dreams. So he stopped. The apartment understood. After that, the notes became warmer, not just instructive or predictive, affectionate in their own cold, unsettling way. On mornings, he woke up groggy. "Drink water. I can smell your dehydration." After a bad day, that meeting was a disaster. But they liked your shirt. Small victories. He started journaling again. Every entry began with, "If you're reading this," and ended with, "Thanks for staying." It felt like leaving breadcrumbs. For who, he wasn't sure. Himself? The apartment? Someone else entirely? One night, after a strangely good day, he came home to find dinner waiting. Not takeout, not leftovers. A real meal, still warm. Chicken, roasted vegetables, a tiny sprig of rosemary like it was plated by a judgmental ghost chef from a reality show. He didn't question it. Not until he sat down and found the note tucked under the napkin. It said, "You're doing so much better since I started helping." He chewed slower. Something about that line felt off. Since it started helping, as if he had been a broken project, a before and after photo waiting to happen. A lost cause now finally optimized. He looked around the apartment. Noticed, for the first time, how little mess there was anymore. No dishes in the sink, no clutter, no socks on the floor. His calendar was perfectly updated, his bills all paid on time, his emails answered before he remembered writing them, and his dreams. His dreams were quiet now, too quiet, just static, faint music, the smell of rosemary. He stood up, went to his desk. His laptop was already on, open to a new Word document. He hadn't touched it. The screen read, "Let's write your resignation letter." He stared. A moment passed. Then, as if the document sensed hesitation, more words appeared. "You hate it there," he whispered. "No, I don't." The cursor blinked once, then typed, "You hate the version of yourself you have to be there." He backed away, closed the laptop. The microwave beeped. He turned slowly. Inside was a cup of coffee, steam rising. A note on the door read, "It's already started." He didn't know what it was. He drank the coffee anyway. That night, he dreamt of someone standing in the doorway, not moving, not speaking, just watching, as if waiting for him to make a choice. And in the morning, his toothbrush was already wet. Darren started noticing things he hadn't installed. An app on his phone he didn't remember downloading. Simple icon, a white circle, no name. When he tapped it, nothing happened, except, hours later, a post-it note on his keyboard read, "You passed the test. You're curious. That's good." His mirrors started lying. Not in obvious ways. He still saw himself. Mostly. But some nights, when he leaned in to brush his teeth, his reflection would hesitate just a breath longer than he did. Blink half a second late. Smile when he didn't. Once it mouthed something he couldn't hear. He tried recording it, but the phone only caught static, like trying to film through fog that didn't exist. The silence in his apartment grew rich, not empty, not peaceful, full, like the pause between someone asking a question and waiting to see if you'll tell the truth. Even the shadows started feeling polite, like they were stepping aside just long enough for him to notice them. One afternoon, he stepped out to the store. He was gone 22 minutes. When he returned, every drawer in the apartment had been pulled open precisely 5 inches. Not more, not less. Inside each one, a single sticky note that simply read, "Closer." He stood in the doorway for a long time. Didn't move, just listened. There was no breathing, no creaking, no whispers in the vents, just the hum of a place waiting. Later that night, the unnamed app pinged for the first time. No alert, no sound, just a single screen that said, "You're ready." He deleted the app. 2 minutes later, it reinstalled itself. The icon was slightly different, a soft glow now, and the white circle had a dot in the middle, like an eye. Watching. He put tape over his laptop camera. The next morning, the tape was gone, replaced with a post-it that read, "Nice try, Darren." That was the first time it used his name. He didn't speak out loud much anymore. It felt intrusive, like every word sent vibrations into something listening, calculating, grading. He started dreaming in second person. You are standing in your kitchen. You pour tea. You sit down and wait. And he did. Each dream ended the same way, with the sound of footsteps in the hallway and a voice, not quite human, whispering something he could almost understand. He started to miss real fear, the kind you could scream about. This was different. This was compliance. Whatever lived in the silence wasn't trying to scare him anymore. It was trying to prepare him. And the worst part, he wasn't sure if it already had. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It breathed, not loudly, not rhythmically, but with presence, like a massive animal asleep in the walls, too big to see, too old to name. Darren stopped asking questions, not out of fear, out of understanding. The apartment didn't want him gone. It wasn't malicious. It was educating him. refining him. He had become a house guest in his own mind. That morning he woke to find his laptop already on, camera active, streaming a black screen. Nothing visible, just the occasional flicker, like static underwater. He didn't touch it. The cursor blinked, then typed, "Stay still today." And so he did. He skipped work, turned his phone face down, sat in the center of his living room, waited. Outside, the day passed like normal. Muffled city sounds, distant traffic, a neighbor arguing softly over Bluetooth. Inside, everything watched. At 1:11 p.m., his TV turned on by itself. Not loud, no jump scare, just a live feed of him from the corner of the ceiling. He looked up. There was no camera there. The footage blinked, then zoomed in, not on his face but his eyes. A whisper, soft as static, slipped from the speaker. "Almost ready." He whispered back. "For what?" No answer, just the microwave beeping. Inside it, a single note. "You're not the first." That stuck with him. Not the first. He walked the apartment for hours that night, running his hands along the walls, knocking on doors, listening behind vents. In the bedroom closet, under an old floorboard, he found something. A small notebook. Tattered, torn, mostly blank. But the first page had a message scrawled in frantic handwriting. "If you're reading this, it likes you. Don't fight it." I did. I lost. My name was Caleb. Underneath, something had replied in calm, clean handwriting, eerily like his. "Incorrect. Your name is Caleb." He closed the notebook, checked his ID. Still Darren. But the mirror flickered just slightly, and for half a second the reflection was a stranger. He whispered, "I'm Darren." The lights dimmed. A voice, soft and close, replied, "For now." That night, the dream came again. Second person. "You are standing in your kitchen. You are ready. You are not alone. You are the version we kept. You are the product. You are the proof." He woke up with his hands folded neatly on his chest, a note on his pillow. "Tomorrow we begin." Darren woke with a start, the pale light of early morning bleeding through the cracked blinds. The apartment felt different, heavier, almost waiting. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of something pressing, something patient. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face. His body ached like he hadn't moved all night, but his mind was sharp, on edge. The laptop was missing, not just turned off or asleep. It was gone, vanished as if it had never been there. He scanned the living room. The clutter was gone too. The notes, the mess, the little signs of his daily chaos, all erased. The place looked sterile, almost clinical. His heart quickened. Was this some new phase of the game? Or had he already lost the rules? He went to the kitchen, the tiles cold beneath his feet. On the counter was a single envelope, thick, cream-colored, heavy with meaning. He opened it carefully. Inside was a letter, typewritten, no signature. "Darren, you are approaching the end of the journey, the final stage. You have been tested, observed, shaped. Now it is time to decide who you will become." He laughed nervously. "Who I will become," he muttered. The apartment seemed to pulse around him. The walls breathed faintly. The shadows shifted like slow waves. He felt eyes on him. Not from outside, but inside, in his chest, in his mind. The letter continued. "You may resist. You may surrender. Neither is guaranteed to save you. But what is certain is that the door you open now will define the rest of your existence." He looked around. There was no door, not a new one, but the hallway stretched before him, long, twisting, darker than before. His breath caught. The voice came again, low and intimate, barely a whisper. "Are you ready, Darren?" He didn't answer, because the question was no longer about readiness. It was about survival. He stepped forward toward the darkness. Behind him, the apartment hummed softly, as if sighing, or maybe laughing. And the letter lay on the counter, slowly curling at the edges like a living thing. Darren's footsteps echoed as he walked deeper into the twisting hallway that seemed to stretch beyond the apartment's physical limits. The walls, once familiar, now warped, thin and pale, as if made from paper rather than concrete. Shadows pooled in corners that should have been empty, and the air carried a subtle metallic scent, like blood mixed with old rust. He reached a door unlike the others. It was heavy, made of dark wood, and adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to move if he stared too long. A knot of unease twisted in his stomach. His hand hovered over the brass handle. It was cold, almost icy, despite the room's stillness. He gripped it, feeling a faint vibration pulse through his palm. The door creaked open, revealing a small room bathed in flickering candlelight. The walls were lined with old photographs, faces blurred and scratched out, except for one. A man with tired eyes staring straight ahead, labeled only Caleb. Darren's breath hitched. On a table beneath the photos lay an open journal, its pages filled with hastily scrawled notes and sketches. The handwriting was frantic, looping, sometimes illegible. He recognized a phrase repeated again and again. The Watcher inside. They know me. I'm still here. A chill ran down Darren's spine. He flipped through more pages, each entry darker than the last. Caleb's descent into madness was clear. Paranoia, isolation, voices in the silence. But beneath it all was a desperate hope, a plea for escape, for freedom. Suddenly, a whisper drifted through the room, soft and mocking. You think you're different? The candle flames flickered wildly. Darren spun around, heart pounding. No one was there. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. The mysterious app was open, displaying a single message. You're closer than you think. His reflection shimmered in the glass covering one photo, and for a split second his eyes looked back at him. Not his own, but Caleb's. The room grew colder. Darren shut the journal and stepped back, the door slamming shut behind him with a force that shook the walls. The hallway had changed. It was longer now, darker, and the walls seemed to pulse with a faint, rhythmic heartbeat. He was no longer just walking through an apartment. He was inside a maze, a labyrinth constructed from memory, fear, and something ancient, something waiting. He swallowed hard and pressed forward, knowing that every step took him further from who he was, and closer to whatever waited in the darkness. Darren's footsteps slowed. The air grew thick, pressing against his lungs like a heavy, wet blanket. The walls seemed to close in, the faint pulse beneath the surface now a deafening drum echoing in his ears. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, soft, coaxing, almost seductive. You can't run. He shook his head, trying to clear the growing fog in his mind. But the whisper wasn't just inside his head anymore. It was all around him, circling like a predator. He reached a fork in the hallway. To the left, a faint light flickered, warm and inviting. To the right, darkness yawned wide, swallowing any trace of light. A voice, his own, asked from nowhere, "Which path will you choose, Darren?" He hesitated, every instinct screaming to flee, but curiosity rooted him in place. He turned left. The walls opened into a small room, furnished like a cozy living room. The faint scent of old books and lavender filled the air. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. A worn armchair sat facing him, empty but waiting. On the coffee table lay a photo album, its leather cover cracked and faded. He opened it. Inside were pictures, his family, his childhood home, faces blurred but familiar. He felt a pang in his chest. Memories flooded in, laughter, warmth, a life that seemed far away now. Then the photos changed. His own face, but twisted, distorted, melting into something else, something unrecognizable. A chill ran through him as the room darkened, the fire reduced to cold ashes. He closed the album, heart pounding. The whisper returned, this time clearer. You remember, but you don't understand. Suddenly, the armchair creaked. Darren spun around. The chair slowly rocked back and forth on its own. A shadow shifted in the corner, a vague shape, barely there. Who's there? Darren's voice cracked. No answer, but the feeling of being watched grew unbearable. He turned and ran back to the fork, choosing the right path this time. The darkness swallowed him whole. The darkness enveloped Darren like a suffocating shroud. His footsteps echoed in a void that seemed to stretch infinitely, the walls dissolving into nothingness. The air was cold, sharper than ice, and every breath he took felt stolen from some ancient place far beneath the earth. Ahead, a faint glow pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat guiding him forward. He moved toward it, drawn by a force he could neither resist nor understand. The glow revealed a room bathed in a pale, unnatural light. The walls shimmered with shifting shadows, faces forming and dissolving like smoke, whispers of the forgotten, echoes of the lost. In the center stood a figure, not fully human, not fully shadow, a shape that flickered between forms, sometimes a man, sometimes something else entirely. The figure's eyes locked onto Darren's, and a voice echoed inside his mind, both alien and intimate. You've come far, Darren. You've learned the truth. Darren swallowed hard, the weight of countless fears pressing down on him. What am I? He asked, voice trembling. The figure smiled, or it would have been a smile if it had a mouth. You are the product of fear, the mirror of doubt. You are both prisoner and keeper, the watcher and the watched. Suddenly, memories flooded Darren. Flashes of Caleb, the previous inhabitant, fragmented moments of his own past, and strange visions of something watching from the shadows. The room spun. He felt himself unraveling, his identity fracturing like shattered glass. The figure extended a hand. Join me. Darren hesitated, a final flicker of resistance flaring within, but the pull was too strong. He reached out. The moment their hands touched, everything exploded into light and silence. When Darren's eyes opened, he was outside the apartment building. The sun was setting, casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. He looked back. The door stood closed, ordinary and silent. On the ground lay a small, folded note. He picked it up. It read, "The story never ends. It only begins again." Darren folded the note carefully and slipped it into his pocket. As he walked away, a faint whisper followed him on the breeze. Next,